Hello and welcome to the On the Line podcast, the place where we like to talk about everything kite related. I'm Matt.
And I'm Chris, and we are your hosts. Welcome to our new channel. We'll be featuring live guests, kite building segments, and in-field flying with many, many more things to come.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. The first guest on our very first podcast is none other than Josh Mitcheson from Kite Tech. We've just finished interviewing him now. How do you think that went, Chris?
That couldn't have gone any more smooth, any more better than what it was. It was absolutely fantastic. He is such a humble and insightful person. I look forward to hearing from him some more in the future.
He was an awesome guest to have and really gave us some detailed information on the kites that he makes. To everyone listening at home, we are working as we go. We're working things out as we go. We haven't got everything perfect yet, as I'm sure you'll hear in the upcoming episode. If you can bear with us whilst we develop it, you will hear me monopolise the conversation over Chris, but there will definitely be a lot more from him in the future. So sit back and enjoy the interview with Josh Mitcheson. On the show today, we have none other than Josh Mitcheson, otherwise known as Kite Tech. And Josh has been kind enough to answer some questions about Kite Tech and what he's doing and where it's going. Hi, Josh. Welcome.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me
Hi,
on.
Josh. Welcome to our show.
Hi, Chris.
So you've been busy making kites today?
Most certainly have. Being locked inside is a great opportunity to build kites, so there's lots of new things coming.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I've been making kites today. Been making kites for the last 3 or 4 weeks, but certainly not to the level that you do. But yeah,
Yes, I have to agree to that.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
who am I to
So,
say?
Josh, I want to ask you some questions
Sure.
just about Kite Tech in general. So, tell me, when was it that you actually established the business?
It's a two-part question, that really, because Kite Tech's been around for longer than I've had Kite Tech. Sorry, no, that sounds wrong. I started Kite Tech, but Kite Tech's trading and building kites for people kind of started about 4 or 5 years ago. But
Okay.
I created the name Kite Tech about 2 years ago as part of a university project. And from there, it's kind of just gone boom and taken off. No pun intended. But yeah, so it's about 2 years now.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And so to put that into perspective, how long have you been actually flying kites for?
Well, to make me feel old, remember I'm 22 this year, I've been flying kites for 10 years.
10 years. And how old are you now?
22.
22. So that's a crazy amount of experience. Okay.
You could say that. I've still got a lot more to learn, but I have some experience for sure.
So I don't know about you, but from the second that I started flying them, um, in my mind, I had that I wanted to learn how to make them. Was it the same for you straight away, or did it take that sort of 5 or 6 years before you suddenly thought, actually, I can fly them, and now I want to learn how to make them?
No, it wasn't I didn't start thinking, you know what, I want to build kites. From the day I started flying kites, it was all, ooh, I want this kite and I want that kite. And I knew everybody else's kites. I had no concept of creating my own. But that kind of originated 3 years ago when I started flying quads. And bear in mind, I was 15 at this point. I didn't have much money, certainly not enough to buy any revs. But I got one Revolution, an EXP, which lasted me about 6 weeks before I destroyed the sail. So I thought, right, I need to do something about this because I can't afford to keep replacing these.
Uh,
Uh, and so yeah, that's kind of when I went, do you know what? I could make these for a lot cheaper than I can buy them. And there's a whole kind of story after that of how that changed into me coming up with designs like. Bear in mind, the Pulse is the kite that Kite Tech started with, but I've been building kites long before the Pulse. My first kite that I ever built was terrible. Have you ever seen it's parachute ripstop? It's really stretchy.
yep, yep.
So my first quad line kite that I built was out of parachute ripstop. It was brilliant, but it was crap.
So I do just want to briefly go back, okay, and I've got to ask you. I mean, I've seen you fly, so I do kind of have some insight, and I think
Yeah,
you know what's coming here because, I mean, I have an EXP, and I
yeah.
would rank them as quite robust. Chris, you've got an EXP. You're learning
Yes,
on
I
an
do.
EXP. Okay, so we know what question's coming.
Yeah.
How the hell did you destroy the sail in such a short space of time?
So you obviously know EXPs are not made from the most expensive
No?
materials because it's Revolution's budget kite.
Materials, yeah.
Yeah.
So what I did, thinking like, oh, I've got a rev, I'm the bee's knees, I love this kind of thing. I'm doing everything I can see on YouTube. I'm flying into goalposts, I'm flying underwater. And yeah, I just trashed that sail. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
pushed
mean,
it to its extreme.
water will definitely is a fast way to kill a sail.
If you've ever been swimming in the North Sea of England, you know how rough that like current is, and that's what I used to play with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No. I understand how it happened.
Oh yeah,
Okay. So, um going back to the pulse. Okay.
yes.
So, did the idea for the pulse, did that exist before Kite Tech, or did it come after Kite Tech?
So the Pulse actually came before Kite Tech. The idea was that there was a kite I could build rapidly. So when I do burn through these sails, because I used to go through a lot of sails, um, that I could reproduce quite quickly. But it also then kind of evolved into a point where there was what's it called? A clinic, but a building clinic.
Yeah,
So the Pulse kind
a
of set
workshop, kite workshop.
exactly. Um, so the Pulse was kind of used as a model, but not the exact model for the workshop. It was a basis point. Um, yeah, and it kind of took all those pro features that you wanted in the kite at the time and put them on a budget value. So yeah, long before Kite Tech.
Okay, so that's really interesting that the model for the pulse is basically built around um, a sort of ease and speed and cost to produce. Did you have in your wildest dreams that when the design actually came to fruition and you started producing it, that it would be as good a kite as it is?
Well, do you know what? It's kind of weird because the Pulse to me is not the best kite in my arsenal. But the feedback I get from all the flyers that have pulses is they really love it, and there's a lot of people that are the pulse is their go-to kite. But no, when I first like created it, I didn't think that it was going to go where it did, and I didn't think people would take to it like they did.
So before I carry on talking about the pulse,
Hmm.
Josh, if you just run us through the current kites in the Kite Tech range across the range, okay, and maybe we can just talk briefly about one or two as we go. So tell us about it.
Okay, so of course you've got the pulse.
Yep.
you've got so the pulse is standard vented, mid vent, extra vent. There's super vents, and there is somewhere there are a few around, but not many people have them. A super ultralight pulse. The next sort of generation of quad line that I did, and this is more for the way that I fly, it's a bit more aggressive, and there's some more tricks built in there. Is the XE. The XE again, full set standard through extra vent. It's the XE's got angles built within the sail as opposed to just a flat sail. So the way it reacts to the flyer's response is just a little bit more responsive, I guess. You also have the Echo, which is the indoor variety of the Pulse. Completely different sail pattern though. Yeah, away from quad line, there is a new quad line coming. I'll drop that. There's a little golden nugget for you.
Oh yeah, there's a little exclusive there. Okay,
A little exclusive.
but also, if I correct me if I'm wrong, but you've got the Impulse as well.
Yeah, so the Impulse is dual line.
Yep.
The Impulse is my team kite, which is bizarrely very popular with British pairs teams. Yeah, so the Impulse is a full size kite, quite shallow. So the precision.
I think, is it Flying Fish that use the Impulse?
Flying Fish, Twisted Bridle, a pair from Fracture were flying the Impulse, but they're working on something new as well.
So there's a lot of love for that.
Oh, there's so much love for the Impulse. It's really.
Well, I'm fortunate to actually have a set of Impulses.
Lucky.
Yeah, and I can definitely testify to the precision, for sure. I'm not skilled enough to get the most out of them by a long way, but definitely as a sort of amateur flyer, you can definitely pick up the lines and fly some very tight squares and precision moves. So it's clearly the pedigree is there.
I won't say too much because they haven't had them for long, and I won't say who, but there's a team in Malaysia at the minute doing some very impressive things with Impulses, and there is a new Impulse on the horizon. Again, there's a golden nugget for you.
Don't give out all your exclusive news just for us, just because it's the inaugural podcast. Don't feel like you have to give us all of this.
Hey, if he wants to give us Christmas.
Yeah,
I'm
to be
kidding.
fair, yeah. I mean, if you want to have at it, have at it.
I mean, there's so many secrets I can't tell you, but you can have those little teasers.
Fantastic. So, are there any other kites that we should be mentioning in the current range?
No, not really.
Okay.
Because those three kites are kind of like where Kite Tech started and what it's working through at the minute. There's new designs in the mix which will come into play as the year goes on, and yeah, there's new things coming.
So, I'm going to backtrack to the Pulse because, as I've told you numerous times, it is my favourite kite. I think for a teen kite, I don't think there's a better kite out there at the moment that I've flown personally. But I would say that because I fly in multiple numbers with other people with pulses. But certainly, a few mutual contacts that we have, they would all agree. Know, having had conversations with them, that the Pulse is a top-notch kite out there. And to be fair, it's I think it's fairly unbeatable for the money as well. They're not an expensive kite for the quality that you get.
Well, that was the one of the things that I was looking to do as well, was offer a kite that has got the quality as a budget and available in England, because getting kites across here is very difficult.
Yeah, exactly. No offense to our American audience,
No.
it's nice to actually have a very reputable brand of quality kites over here in the UK. That has to be
I've
said.
been saving my schmeckles for a pulse.
Yeah. Ah.
Well, keep saving, keep saving. So we've spoken about the Impulse. I've flown the Impulse. It's a great precision kite. Now the XE.
Yep.
Now I'm sure that if I were to ask you your favorite kite to fly, probably the XE's up there.
Ooh.
Favorite kite to fly or favorite kite?
Well, we'll come on to that. We'll come on to that.
Okay.
But
Okay.
when I mean, I'm again lucky enough to have a couple of XE's. To me, the XE almost flies with your kind of flying style. It's very aggressive. It's very precise. You can do lots and lots of different things with it.
Yeah. Well, that's
How how far is the pulse in regards of like somebody completely new flying? Is that like a pulse? Would you recommend a pulse to a complete beginner, or should you wait a little longer, have some more hours on the lines, and then get a pulse?
ooh, good question. You see, when people come to me and say they're a complete beginner, the pulse is what I send them to because it's.
Ooh, okay.
I can say this because this is what I feel. It might not necessarily be what everybody else thinks, but I find the pulse is very forgiving. It's smooth, and you can get away with doing a lot of things wrong without causing any sort of collateral
It's
damage.
probably why I like it so much
Hmm. But does that say
because
more
I'm
about your flying
constantly
style?
making
Yeah,
mistakes.
Matt is always teasing me with the pulse.
Well, Matt is a teaser.
I am a big tease.
He's an
Yeah.
instigator.
Definitely.
So going back to the XE,
Yep.
you were telling us about uh, why it was developed. You know,
Yeah, yeah, of course. So yeah, the XE was developed because, like I said, the pulse is different to what I wanted from a kite, and it was great for what I needed, but then I felt that my flying went a bit beyond that for what I wanted. So the XE kind of it's got a completely new bridle on, which is not similar to anything that's been already created. It's the impact of the lines is directly impacting the kite sail itself. So where you've got other static bridles like the 1.5 bridle that's on most 1.5 models, they are very strict, and you find that anything you do is direct to the kite. Where this is similar, but it takes the direction of impact from the lines in a different angle to the kite, relevant to where the kite is in the window.
yep.
It's hard to explain in words. It's a very visual thing to see.
Yeah, I understand what you're getting at. I mean, I, I'm lucky enough to have seen an XE bridle up close, so I understand to a degree what you're saying. I don't profess to understand bridles; they are a black, dark art to me. I, I just don't. I don't get it. Full stop.
They are
Um,
works of art, though.
I can just.
Absolutely.
I can just about manage a bridle on a single line kite. Just. But yeah, any more than that, and yeah, my understanding just totally goes out the window. Um,
Yeah.
so
So,
what? Yeah. So in terms of the design process, now I don't want you to give away any secrets whatsoever, but
yeah.
talk us through, if you can, without revealing anything, in general, the sorts of things that go through your head when you're coming up with a design like the XE, for example.
But so that's actually something that relates back to my other kind of side of life. I'm a designer, so anything I do is done in a process to meet a specific outcome. So looking at the identity of the kite is not as important as the characteristics. So the way the kite flies is always set out initially before the design's even there. So I'll know if I want something to fly crisp straight lines or do a nice flat half axle. It's the design is done to meet a brief as such. And yeah, so with the XE, it was this kite has to be able to sit in an axle for at least 3 rotations. Specific criteria are set before the design is actually even looked at.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you, in terms of shape, you obviously take the basic original rev shape and then develop it, or the original shape of the revs doesn't come into it?
Obviously, the original Revolution wing shape is the fundamental for, let's face it, most of the quadline designs out there. And that is similar in the XE, that shape, obviously you have 2 structural V's which, direct the air. So obviously that was the initial starting point. But so without revealing it too much, there's a cut in the sail which allows a 3D effect as opposed to a 2D effect. So you're looking at the way that actually when the kite is facing into the wind as opposed to facing away from you, it's that shape that's taken which defines the characteristics of the kite.
Okay. So how many prototypes did it take to get to the XE's final form, or its current form, I should say?
Prototypes, so in physical units, there were 7.
Okay.
In iterations, to those 7 units, there was 800.
Okay. So, okay.
Excuse me, did you say 800?
800 indeed. There were 48 different bridles.
Oh my.
Okay, that's impressive. And so, when you said 7 prototype kites, so you only ever produced 7 in amongst that 800, those 800 iterations. You only 7 sales were produced.
Yep.
Each one different. How quickly did you uh, get to the design of the sail? How much adjustment was there in the sail versus everything else as a entity?
So the original sail, so prototype number 1, I went away from the wing shape of a 1.5, and it was a piece of trash. It didn't work. So after that, I went back to the 1.5, and more so on a pulse basis, but changing the characteristics of the pulse. So looking at the way the mesh positioning along the leading edge affected the flying and the position of the vents within the kite. And that kind of sat there for 2 or 3 models until I took the mesh strip away and started looking at angles within a 3D platform as opposed to a 2D platform. So really, the final kite shape was there by about the 4th or 5th model. And then it was iterations on angles and depths and that kind of thing. So yeah, by the
That's
5th model, I would say.
that is that is awesome to actually to understand how you got that, especially when you're talking about the 3D aspect of it. Um, so moving on
It's
then.
incredible how much goes into it.
There are designers which have done a lot more. Um, I can't name any names, but I know one designer that Fracture work with quite closely to get to the specific kite that we're interested in. I hear rumors, and I could be wrong, but the rumor I've heard was there were 70 different sails produced before even they reached the second prototype, which was the right shape.
Oh wow.
And this
That's
is
some
for a kite
dedication.
that we are we are going to see or that already exists?
No, no, this kite's been around for a long time.
So I think I know, but I mean, I'm just that's it. But yeah, um,
Is it an English kite?
he
Uh,
can't
I,
say. He can't
I
say.
really can't
It's
say.
not at liberty to say. Uh,
Ah,
yeah, um, yeah. So, um, okay. So, Josh, what makes you stand out from the competition?
When you say the competition, do you mean commercial competition or actual kite competition?
No, commercially.
Right. That's something I haven't actually looked at in all that much detail because what I want from my, we'll call them customers, but it's not like that. It's a kite family, and I just want my kites to be flown to make people happy and help people achieve things. So I'm not one of the leading kite manufacturers in the world. I never will be. But what I want out of it is to basically make people happy with my products.
Okay. So, I
So
mean that's you couldn't have a better answer, and I think everyone would agree um,
yes.
that you. I don't think there's many flyers out there that don't want a piece of all of the manufacturers. You know.
I mean, it depends what you want to do with your designs as well, because there are designs which obviously are worldwide and renowned for being brilliant kites. But I often find that the value is in the kites which sit in people's bags that when you pull out, you go, "Ooh, I don't think I've seen that before," but that's actually really cool. And that's why I kind of like to hit is that random kite in the bag, which people go, "Do you know what? I really like that."
I think you hit that sweet spot just right. Um, that's good. That's good. So okay, in an average week, how many kites do you make?
Ooh, right.
That
So,
that's such a good question.
Now, I there is a caveat to this question that
okay.
you can pick a previous week where you've done a lot, um, you know, where your circumstance was different, where you were, knocking out kites left, right, and centre, or you give us the down low.
Since Kite Tech started, so since the name was there,
Yep.
there's not been a week where I've made less than 5 kites.
Okay.
Wow.
There is a team at the minute that asked for some quadline kites. Um, there are many members of this team, and there's so many kites to build. I started pushing rapidly with that project about 3 weeks ago, and there was a single day where I cut 30 sales, and by the end of the week, I made 44 of those kites.
Oh wow.
Just out of interest, would I happen to know this team?
You would happen to know this team, yes.
Okay, good. I like the sound of that. I like the sound of that. Okay, so that's impressive numbers, though. Um,
That's the
that,
most I've ever done.
but to not have made less than five a week since the inception of Kite Tech that's good going. That's a lot. That's a lot of kites out there.
But then I could throw this back at you, and this actually raises the question: what's a kite? Because a kite doesn't need to be 150 panels. There's been weeks where I've sat there and folded a piece of paper and stuck a spar across it, and it flies. Now that is a kite because it
That's
flies.
acceptable. No, we'll take that. We'll gladly take that. A kite is a kite. If it
Exactly.
flies, it flies. Then it's all good. Um,
So if I put a cat on a string in a thunderstorm, it's a kite?
I mean, that's more like a forceful barbecue, if you ask me. But
okay, so name one absolute essential, something you couldn't be without for making kites. And no, you can't say Icarex.
No, but you'll know the answer to this. But because anybody who sees me on the kite field or the kite studio knows exactly one thing I have on my person every time. And do you know what? It's the one thing that I couldn't live without, never mind make kites without. So anytime I'm in the studio, and I actually have one of these in my hand right now, it's Red Bull.
Red Bull. Yeah, I can imagine if you're getting through the numbers that you're getting through, you need some extra
Cheers, I
assistance.
have one too.
Ah, cheers, yeah.
Okay, good answer. Good answer.
Red Bull
Okay,
gives you wings.
yes, it does.
I have a question.
Go
Of
for it.
course.
Um, you said you've been flying since you were a kid.
Yes.
Since you were a kid, since now, have your influences in the kiting world changed, or do you still kind of look up to the same people?
So my influences have massively changed. Um, Not in a sense of that the people I did get influence from when I was starting out don't influence me anymore, because that's totally wrong. And actually, those are the people that I have to thank for flying. So they'll always be the most important influences to me across flying anyway. But now my aspirations have developed in kite flying. So when I started, I just wanted to be the best I could be for what I knew was available. And at this point, I wasn't aware of like the world championships as it is. Um, and since 2 years ago, I went and saw the world championships. And from that point, I knew that, all right, now my aspiration and my influence is to go and compete in the world championships. Uh, so my influences are ever evolving, but the people that you meet along the way determine your influences, if you ask me.
Okay. That's a great answer.
So, um, what's your favorite kite to make?
To make, right, okay. Oh, that's a horrible, horrible question. Um,
And that
I
doesn't
guess
it doesn't have to be a Kite Tech kite.
no, but it is. I really like making the XE for a really bizarre reason. Um, I guess we've got PG reasons on this, so I won't swear, but it is a right bleep to make. So once you've actually cut everything, stuck it together, sewn it together, and it's there, I get this kind of feeling of I shouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah,
That sounds awfully like modest, but if you look at an XE and you see how many panels there are there, and every panel has to be aligned perfectly for it to actually even vaguely work, it feels like quite a big achievement once I've done it. So I think that is the favorite kite for me to build.
you get a good sense of satisfaction from something
Exactly.
so difficult. Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I've every time I get a new kite, every time I look at it and I just marvel at the accuracy of the sewing, and
Yeah,
when you take an XE into account, there's a lot of panels. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, I honestly don't know how you 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 managed to assemble, because they're not easy panels to assemble either. They're long and thin, and yeah,
In total, for the entire build of an XE, there's 156 components.
no, that's crazy numbers. That's crazy
Holy
numbers.
shamoly, Batman.
So, what's your least favorite kite to make?
Um,
Now you've already picked the XE, so you can't pick it for
yeah.
both.
Do you know what? This is not a kite I sell, and it wasn't a difficult kite to put together, but it was a difficult kite to build. Uh, a few years ago, one of my flying friends passed away, and he was renowned for the specific kite. And this plan for this kite was on the internet, so anybody could go and build one. And when he died, I was like, no, I have to build one of these. but I didn't have a clue what to do with it, so I didn't know what I wanted it to look like. I wasn't even the best at building kites then, but I built this kite, and as a tribute to him, I taught myself applique and actually appliqued his image into it. So that was the worst kite to build because it was the hardest kite to build, but it was also a brilliant kite to build.
Yeah.
If that answers your question, I don't know.
No, no, I get it. I get it. That's yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It makes, and I'm sure there's lots of people listening that will totally identify with the points on both. Um, so yeah, nice. Um, okay, so we'll wrap it up, but
Well, hold
before
on.
we do, okay, no, okay, you got a question? Go for it.
I have one last little segment that I have worked out.
Sure.
It's called the beginner's corner. Okay.
Okay.
Now, my question is, what would be your best top 5 pieces of advice for brand new flyers just coming out of the gate?
Oh, right. That's fun. I like that. Um, so,
And what I mean by that is like, all right, what kite would you recommend? It could be one of yours, it could be someone else's. Would you recommend, a quad or a dual line for a newbie? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So it depends what that person wants to achieve. I think dual lines are more readily available, and actually information on how to learn them is more readily available. So I would always think that a dual line would be the best kite to start with, until you've inspired yourself enough to go and get a quad and learn how to fly it, because it's a completely different uh, flying style. Um, but yeah, for tips for flying, yeah, I've always had this really fun idea that anybody who learns how to fly a kite should always launch the kite the first time blind. So close your eyes, just launch it, and then once you think it's the right time, open your eyes. And it sounds crazy, but the reason for doing that is because you react to what you see instantly, whereas you don't react to what you feel. I remember the first time I flew a kite, this kite went up and it wobbled. And I thought because it was wobbling, I needed to counteract that wobble by wobbling my hands, which was totally the wrong thing to do. But if I closed my eyes, I wouldn't have seen that wobble. And it actually would have been all right given a second or two to get past that. So, yeah, first time you fly a kite, close your eyes.
I like that.
Only if it's safe to do so. Just
Yes, not if you're kite surfing. Do not
no,
close your eyes.
no, not if you're kite surfing or you're about to launch some 5 meter power kite at Dunstable Downs. Please don't do
Yeah.
that.
Little disclaimer. Have a little space in between you.
So,
And a
any more
Red Bull.
tips? Any more tips?
Well, you said five, didn't you?
Yeah,
You've done 2.
Wear the right clothing.
good one.
Uh, yeah.
I would definitely reiterate that.
I have a team of flyers that I have been trying to get to wear black jeans because it looks good. And the sensible flyer among them said, "No, I'm not wearing black jeans because when it rains, they'll get really hard to walk in." And you know what? He's really right. Don't wear black jeans. Uh, third
Yes,
one. Take a Red Bull.
take a Red Bull. Nice.
Okay, and then the final one.
Fly with friends. Uh, Team flying is a different kind of flying, and after I started flying team, I couldn't fly by myself. I got really like sad flying by myself. Um, but yeah, flying with friends is completely different, and you don't need to necessarily be flying team maneuvers, but flying next to a friend and laughing at like just what's happening. I don't suggest closing your eyes if you're flying with other people. That's not a good idea.
Good shout. Good shout. And yeah, again, I would reiterate. I've been flying with other people right from the beginning, and it is a totally different skill, but definitely allow you to build your confidence a lot quicker.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
something I need to do myself. I'm a solo flyer. I don't really have anybody to fly with at the moment, but
Mm.
definitely I will be looking for a partner to fly with.
It's the best way to fly.
Good, good. So I have one last thing that I want to ask you. Is there anything new on the horizon that you wish to tell us about?
Well, there's a few new things on the horizon. Something I've got for you guys. Um,
Ooh, please tell.
Go
I'll
on,
get to
Josh.
that one in a minute.
Well, you can fill us in our dastardly plan.
Blow my mind.
Okay, so for the next 6 weeks, as I foresee that everybody will be trapped inside, Kite Tech
Unfortunately.
are going to give out a new plan. It's new in a sense of it's different to something that Kite Tech haven't offered. It's a smaller pulse, and I'm going to do a live workshop through a platform through these guys. And you're welcome to download that plan, follow the live videos, and build your own smaller pulse.
Oh, that is too
Fantastic.
cool. That is fantastic.
So we are going to do some live build along sessions, as Josh said, over hopefully around 6 weeks. I guess, we'll play it by ear and see where it takes us. Um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the new. Has it got a name?
Well, we could give it a name, couldn't we?
I
Ooh.
mean,
Um,
it will definitely need a name. What that name may be, I don't
I
know.
I feel like there's a competition there for anybody
Ooh,
who's listened.
yes, yes. To
I
anyone
like
that's
that.
listened this far, thank you. Um, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, it's up to you. We'll see if we can get that
Yeah,
organised.
get a Facebook poll open.
Okay, we'll do.
We could we could have a Kite Tech sponsored prize, I suppose.
Fantastic. So
Yeah.
if you have downloaded or streamed and listened to this podcast, thank you very much. It is our first podcast. Please bear with us because we are learning as we go. We wanted to put something interesting out for all you kite enthusiasts, and we are hoping to get lots of interesting people on to speak to. So if you have any suggestions, if you have any comments, then please feel free to let us know. It's On the Line Kiting. You find us on Facebook and Instagram. And yeah, get in touch. And if you enjoy it, give us a like. Chris, have you got anything to say?
Just thank you very much for tuning in and listening. There's lots more of exciting things to come in the following weeks, so please tune in.
Fantastic. Josh, any parting words from yourself?
Uh, Thank you for listening to me. Fly high, fly free, and fly for fun.
Yes, I like it.
Yes.
Well, Josh, thank you very much for being our guest on our first
Thank you
podcast.
so
I,
much.
No problem at all.
I hope it is the first of many. And yeah, good luck to Kite Tech and everything that you do in the future.
I will be in
Thank you very
touch
much.
when I have enough schmickles.
I look forward to that too, mate.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, guys, see you later.